You're on the clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins, a Prospects Live podcast for everything MLB draft related. Join us as we discuss the biggest stories from college and high school baseball, bring you interviews from your favorite draft prospects, and break down live looks with Prospects Live analysis across the nation. Get ready, because you're on the clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins.
All righty, we are back with another episode of On the Clock, powered by Prospects Live. I'm Jared Perkins. That's Tyler Jennings. Tyler, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Mr. Crisp Jared Perkins. How are you doing?
No technology issues we got to worry about today. That's nice.
Thank God, because I probably would have butchered the intro like I've done the past couple times.
No, you've been great. You've been carrying the weight for the squad. Gotta love it.
As you drink your German beer.
Yep. I figure it's a Sunday night. This will be out on a Tuesday, but we're recording on a Sunday. We got plenty of updates for you all. Nothing too exciting, but there's been some news in the college baseball scene and the MLB draft scene. We're going to go through some of that stuff. We have an awesome interview. We were lucky enough to be joined by the University of Washington head coach, Jason Kelly. Awesome dude. You can see why guys want to go play for him up in Washington, Pacific Northwest. We talked about some how sneaky good the Pacific Northwest is in terms of baseball and some of the things he's looking forward to this season. But first, we got to talk about, of course, Pac-12. We might as well stay on theme here. Oregon State deciding to play as an independent in 2025, I believe, when all the Pac-12 schools are basically moving to other conferences. What are your thoughts on that?
This is the best case scenario for Oregon State, personally, because I think the original plan would have been, because I know with football, they all joined the Mountain West. I think like 10 athletic teams from Oregon State joined the Mountain West. And I'll be honest, Oregon State doesn't belong in that kind of conference. No, there's like no shame or no like ill will towards the Mountain West, but Oregon State's been a championship caliber team for most of the century. It's just unfair that football has to relegate them to essentially a Pac-2 with Washington State. I think this is perfect for them. Just reading off something from their athletic director, Scott Barnes, given the history and success of the baseball program, it's a national power. And they just want to create the best possible situation for their athletes. And I think this is perfect. You got Travis Bazzana in that squad. Gavin Turley is going to be eligible next year. They got a solid crop of freshmen up there in Corvallis too. So really, this is just the best thing for them at this point. I know some people wanted them in the ACC, and I don't know how well that would have gone over with the fact that, Cal and Stanford coming over for cross-country trips is already going to be enough strain on the student athletes. I don't know if they'd really want to do that for Oregon State kids. But
send everybody to Dallas.
Oh, my God.
That's the goal.
SMU, you are now the central hotspot for every single conference. So. But this is a great move. They have every right to do this, and it gives them creativity with the schedule. This, you could easily see Oregon State getting like midweeks with, say, like Washington or something like that, and then a weekend series. You're probably going to try and get them to travel, if not bring someone from the SEC or Big 12 over to them. I think this is perfect for them. Just, I want to see your thoughts on this, though, Jared.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for them too, because like the fear is probably like losing some of those rivalries, right? They don't get that weekend series with Oregon or that weekend series with Washington, because like Coach Kelly even talked about on the interview how he loved playing Oregon State every weekend because it was always a challenge and they always gave him a hard time. And so I think for Oregon State, it's going to be a good opportunity to really like keep those rivalries in place, right? They can schedule that weekend series with Oregon. They can schedule that weekend series with Washington, but they could also do like what you said, if they wanted to do some midweek games against those teams as well. I think it's good for them. Like you said, I don't want to see all these kids having to go across the country to play games and also try to do school at the same time. Like that's just nuts. I mean, you're looking at 5-6 hour flights all the way out to the East Coast, maybe longer if you're going all the way down to Florida or something for those ACC games like against Florida State. But I think it's good for the team. Like you said, Oregon State's a big powerhouse, and the West Coast has good baseball. It's like they can get good matchups against Gonzaga, even some of the mid majors like Sac State or UCSB. Those are still really good baseball schools and have had success in the past. You had like Reese Hoskins, who went to Sac State, was a big guy out of there, and so it's like that West Coast, like I think there's bad baseball out of there. Like all these schools are going into the ACC and SEC because of football, not because the baseball schedules are terrible.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, my take is like, I wish football wasn't driving everything in college right
Yeah.
now. I understand why it is. It's definitely the most watched sport that they,
Moneymaker.
yeah, it's the biggest moneymaker they have, but it really just screws over the rest of the programs on the on their athletic rosters, essentially. And you mentioned UCSB, like Todd Check knows his arms, man. They are year in year out, like really really strong on
Yeah.
pitching side. And say, this time next year you schedule a weekend series in Corvallis with UCSB. That's a really really underrated matchup, personally.
Yeah.
Like,
When I was doing baseball ops at UCS or at Nevada, UCSB, every time we played them, every arm was like 90 plus. Every dude was a good.
Shane Bieber coming out of
Yeah.
UCSB. Yep, they have a history, and they got a really really good team this year. Like Matt Auger, Tyler Bremner, Hudson Barrett. There's a couple other guys in that bullpen that are really really strong. It's really going to be a fun way. Like just following them, trying to see what they come up with schedule wise is going to be really fun. I think today they just dropped their like official 2024 schedule, and I really like what they got at the top. And you kind of hit it off the head with Dallas, like.
Yeah.
Arkansas on that Friday night, February 23rd, you might be getting Hagen Smith,
Yeah.
maybe. That's a really, really good matchup. And it's probably going to be the matchup of the year between Hagen Smith and Travis Pisana, depending on how everything rolls out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that 2024 college baseball series in Arlington since you brought it up. You're going to the weekend series on February 23rd to 25th, where Michigan, OSU, Arkansas, Oregon State will be at. They also have two other weekend series. Weekend one is the 16th through 18th, where you got Baylor, Oklahoma, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Nebraska. I mean, that's like a super heavy matchups there. And then the last weekend's A&M, USC, TCU, ASU. Not as exciting, but still like A&M, TCU, USC, pretty decent. Arizona State's just kind of hanging out there and saying like, "Hey, happy to be here."
No, I mean the team over at Globe Life did a really good job putting all these together. Kind of looking at that first weekend with trying to think. I think that's a Shriners Showdown now because they moved it out of Houston. I think Oregon Oklahoma is an underrated matchup on the 16th. Personally, that 3 o'clock game. And the Tennessee Texas Tech to wrap up tonight. Next day, Texas Tech Nebraska is going to be really good. Nebraska's underrated in my opinion. Gabe Swanson, Drew Christo are guys that really come off, pop off, at the top of my mind here. And then of course Oregon Texas Tech on the 18th. Tennessee wrapping up. Tennessee has all nightcap games too that weekend, which is kind of funny. But Tony Vitello is probably rolling checks in a Brinks truck, so I can probably see why he's doing that. But then like even though midweek's there too, like Oregon State Texas Tech on that Wednesday is going to be a really interesting matchup for a midweek. And that's even coming off Texas Tech even playing UTA. I think it's University of Texas Arlington is what UTA stands for. They play on that Tuesday too, so that's going to be interesting. But that second weekend, I fly out that Thursday. It's going to be me and Patrick Bauer. We're going to tag team it. He's also going to be doing TCU UCLA because he used to work for TCU, actually, the student manager position. But like that Michigan Oklahoma State matchup on Friday, Michigan's got some talent. Dylan Veig is probably the best arm on that squad. He's probably getting the Friday starting role as a true freshman, which is impressive. But that Oregon State Arkansas matchup, the nightcap, that is going to be really loud and it's going to be really fun. That's going to be something I'm looking forward to. And even the next day, like Arkansas and Oklahoma State with the nightcap, throwback to, I think it was 2022 postseason when they had that slugfest in Stillwater, which was pretty interesting to watch. And then I think the next day is Oklahoma State and Oregon State. That's a nightcap, but I think I have to leave that one early just to catch my flight home. But that's just a really, really strong matchup leading off on it. And I'm really excited for that weekend. I think it's going to be streamed on Flow Baseball. Not the greatest. I wish there was a better way to stream that kind of event just with the firepower you have in that, like Hagen Smith, Peyton Stovall, Travis Pizzana, Brady Casper, really good senior out of Oregon State. Will Rogers is on Michigan, and then Oklahoma State, obviously Carson Benj. There's a few other guys on the Oklahoma State team are pretty good. Dylan Schubart's going to be a guy to watch for next year. We can do better than Pro Baseball, I think, personally. That's kind of my thing. I don't want to, crap on them. I just wish there was a better way to stream that kind of thing, because Flow Baseball's broadcasts aren't necessarily the greatest.
Yeah. It's hard with the college athletics, right? You think about all the matchups, you just want to see these games, and now everything's like on the ACC network or SEC network, and you have to go everywhere you can think of just to try to get all these games. But yeah, I've never even heard of Flow Network, so
and it's probably best you haven't. But I'm trying to think. Also, that last weekend,
unless Flow Network wants to sponsor us, then you guys are the best.
Oh obviously. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, send us some money. Like, please have a Brinks truck pull up to my driveway, please.
Yeah.
Trying to think that third weekend.
Flow Network.
Yeah, no, that last weekend, USC TCU on March 1st is a really intriguing matchup. I think USC is probably going to be a contender in the Pac-12.
Yeah, Stankiewicz is fun. What he's done with that program. He's turned programs around for years.
Caden Yoki's probably. I think Caden Yoki was tabbed the preseason pitcher of the year by Perfect Game, which is interesting. He's going to be probably the ace of that USC staff, and then like Texas A&M the next day at 2 p.m. That Texas A&M team's really good.
Yeah, I think with that Montgomery edition, that lineup's going to be fun.
Not even that. That's probably the best outfield in college baseball this year.
Yeah,
no doubt.
100%.
You already have Jace Laviolette, who's going to be probably our 1-1 for 2025 when we finally release those ranks, which we'll talk about later.
That dude
bring in Braden Montgomery, and then you bring in the Columbia transfer Hayden Schott, I do believe is his name.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really loaded outfield to have in College Station.
Yeah, and their pitching staff's fun.
They got
Chris Cortez. Really cool. He's like 97 and 98 with his fastball last season. I mean, that guy looks nice.
I just wish he threw strikes.
Yeah, no, his ERA is not great, but nasty stuff.
Oh, the slider's filthy. I don't think the fastball shape's good enough to really warrant much because it's just pure velocity.
Yeah,
he doesn't command it well, but the slider's the real deal. I really like the slide piece. They got a couple really talented young lefties, and Justin Lampkin and Shane Sedao, I think is his last name.
Okay.
Lampkin, I've watched before. It's really good stuff from the left side. I think he's going to start pitching in the mid-90s sometime soon. And Sedao, I haven't seen much of him, but I watched his film. He got a really good changeup, really good arm speed. Fastballs are in the low 90s, and he's starting to get feel for a slider. I think he's pretty underrated. I think Joe Doyle had him high up on his 2025 board that he did a few months ago. That's really what got me in on his film, and I've watched it. I'm pretty in on it, and it's really projectable too. You could probably add another 25 pounds of body weight to that, and you have a really good clay to really mold there if you're Texas A&M.
Yeah, the one guy I wanted to see as Tanner Jones. He's the Jacksonville state transfer. I think D1 Baseball said he was like somewhere up to 95, 96 the fall with a good slider. So I really want to get some video and eyes on him because I think he could be kind of a breakout guy for them as well.
Absolutely. They've done a pretty good job on the portal as well too.
Yeah.
That was a really good portal class by Schlossnagel. That's going to be tough to say. But yeah, it's going to be a really good lineup they have in Dallas this year. But yeah, if they could get off Flow Baseball, please do. Please do.
And again, unless Flow Baseball wants to sponsor us, then stay on Flow forever, and Flow send us a lot of money. Thanks.
I don't know if Flow Baseball will want me to be an announcer on their broadcast, honestly.
I would. I'd want you as an announcer on the broadcast.
I'll put that in my bio.
Jared wants me to be an announcer on a baseball broadcast somewhere.
There we go. That's what I like to hear.
Well, sticking with the college baseball theme here, we got to talk about one arm injury that unfortunately happened. Cole Roland sounds like he's going to miss a good majority of the season. It was a transfer, last year from Dartmouth to Wake Forest, and they pitched for Wake Forest last year. Was that, am I right there? I think that's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yep.
Pitched really well in the Cape Cod League as well this summer. Was expecting to be kind of like a two-headed monster bullpen with David Falco Jr. and him closing out games for Wake Forest. Now it's definitely going to be David Falco Jr. But what are your thoughts on kind of that loss for Wake Forest?
It's going to be a lot larger than we really think it is on paper. You lose Camden Minacci to the draft. He got
Yeah.
drafted by the Angels last year. And Roland didn't get drafted. He probably deserved to.
Yeah.
But obviously, 88, 90 with the fastball. He's got really good breaking stuff. Probably just didn't get what he wanted money wise.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty big blow. This is a guy that really would have done well in the back end of that bullpen. Even last year, like 2.15 ERA, 25 games, had 2 saves, held batters to 1.49 against, and even struck out 50 and 29 in the third. It's really, really good stuff. He pitches with a ton of confidence and is a freaking maniac. Like Steven Schock and Cole Roland in a matchup would probably be the greatest thing on turf.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be back until I think they said at least mid-April. So there will be some guys that need to kind of show out in the back end of that Wake bullpen. One guy that can really do that, I think, Hayden LeFew, who's a freshman that came on campus this year. Really promising stuff. He's probably their midweek guy, but if they need some sort of firepower to help David Falco in the back end of that bullpen, I think LeFew is a really good choice to have there. But yeah, it's gonna suck not seeing Roland. I like my guys that are complete maniacs on the mound. So it's gonna suck. But we hope he recovers quickly. Hope he gets back before then. But probably mid-April is when we see him again, and I think that lines them up for a series with Florida State. I do think that's what it is.
What good timing having him back then, but
especially if Florida State goes off like we think they will this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think David Falco can kind of hold down the fort for a little bit. He's a guy I saw a lot at Maryland. He's a transfer last year from Maryland. He was really good in 2022. Had a 2.84 ERA, 31 and 2/3 innings pitched, struck out 31, walked 7. But the walks really increased last year. He's walked 22 guys in 48.2 innings, only struck out 39, and then posted a run higher, so 3.88 ERA. 90 to 93 mile an hour fastball, sliders okay, just average. Sometimes gets swing and miss with it, but not often, and so he kind of really relies on that fastball. And it's a decent pitch, but hey, he's in the Wake Forest pitching lab. Who knows what's going to happen? What his stuff might look like. I really need to look at the fall preview to see if there was any scouting reports there. I don't know if you saw him when you went and saw Wake.
Yeah, same normal, like upper 80s, touched 90, 91 a couple of times, but I don't know. I think the slider's good. I think he's in a pretty good fit. He had like the final 2 innings in the first scrimmage against Elon. And that was after like Chase Burns and Josh Hartle and Michael Massey all struck out like 17 in like 6 innings. Like,
yeah. And I've only seen him hit like the 92, 93 range when it's like warm weather. And then the other cold weather games that I saw him, he was like, wait, you said 88 to like 91.
Well, hey, that'll be perfect down here because it's only been like 70 since like Wednesday down here in January. This is weird. I'm not sure if I like it or not.
Yeah, gotta love it. Switching over to the prep side, I know you mentioned the National High School Invitationals. I'm not as much in depth on the prep side, but what do you got on that?
Yeah, no. So if anybody doesn't know what NHSI is, it's a annual tournament hosted by USA Baseball. They've been doing it since 2012, I do believe. Last year was a 10th edition because they skipped 2020, 2021 because of COVID. But this year they released the schedule and everything. I think it was on the 6th. So we're a little bit behind, but I put a preview out on the website just to kind of break everything down for people. I really do like the lineup they have this year. Kind of just breaking it down. Apex Friendships, a local school that's going to be the host team this year. Bishop Gorman was here last year. Castile is going to be. I think they're returning again. I can't remember exactly when they were last year. But like Mason Russell's on that squad. That's a really, really good lefty in the prep side. Chaparral from Scottsdale. Corona might be the dark horse, honestly, to win that all.
Chaparral, man, they are good. I
Yeah.
played them when I was in high school. It was never fun. My team sucked. So I can
But
confirm Chaparral has been good for years. And I went to high school and I graduated in 2009. So you know how long they've been good for.
sources with Jared Perkins, Chaparral, really good.
Yeah. Some things don't change, life
This
moves
is
on.
true.
And
But yeah, so Chaparral, Corona, we mentioned. We'll kind of break those guys down here in a minute because that is a very loaded team.
yeah.
Farragut's been probably the best team in Tennessee. They're Knoxville suburb. Haggerty returns this year. Harvard Westlake is back for the first time since they had Pete Crow Armstrong and Carey. Huntington Beach won it last year. Key West, Orange Lutheran's back. So we get more Derek Curiel. Puyallup, I think is the way you pronounce it. The Washington team's got some pretty good guys. St. John's College from DC. That's the first time a DC school has actually been represented in the 11 to 12 year time span we've had this tournament. St. John's Country Day, he was in the final a couple years ago, is back. Trinity Christian from Jacksonville. And then I think this is the first time ever there's another North Carolina team that's going to be represented this year. Wesleyan Christian. Patrick Bailey is a guy that's come out of that school. Jacob Cozart for NC State's the guy that came out of that school. They are a really, really loaded team locally. And I'm really happy that they're going to be in this lineup this year because I really want to make a run out there to go see them.
Leave it to you to always have the North Carolina updates for everyone.
Hey, the 2025 North Carolina class looks really, really good right now.
You gotta hype them up. That's your job. You're the North Carolina guy. Hype up North Carolina.
Quoting Azad Earl, King Carolina.
Love it. So outside of so we have the National High School Invitational. Is there anybody from Prospects Live that's going to be there or no?
So I'm definitely going to be there the first 2 days.
Okay.
That's the game plan because I want to get up to Knoxville for LSU coming to town. But as of right now, Harris is a guy that I definitely want to have out there to kind of cover the remaining 2 days.
Yeah.
Just because he's in the area, I think he's definitely good enough to evaluate these guys and get video. He's also he was helping us out with the collegiate national team over the summer, so he knows the park very well.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a guy I'm going to have out there as well. We also brought someone new on. His name is Ryan Britton. Haven't formally introduced him yet over to the Twitter side. We'll do that here in a couple days when I release my spring schedule, and then I'll go on the Prospects Live Twitter and kind of tag everybody that's part of the team. But Ryan is actually a good buddy of mine from high school. And we actually met up a little bit ago. We were doing one of my old friends has like a foundation for his dad, and we met up there, and he told me, if you have an opportunity to like bring me aboard, I'd love to do it. Couple months passed, and of course we lost a few guys to pro teams. That happens every single year. Tyson went to the Astros. Jonathan went to Cleveland. Probably missing a guy or two there, but the opportunity opened itself. So I brought it up to Ryan and we talked about it for about 35, 40-ish minutes. So he's on board. I really enjoy having him on. He was a really good buddy of mine. I'm really hoping everything works out for him. He does have a strict 9 to 5 schedule every single day of the week, but Saturday, Sunday, he's free. So if we can get him out to do some games, either at NC State or something, or even he can handle the final day in HSI with Harris, I think that's going to be something that benefits him. And he has experience. He worked with Collegiate USA a couple years ago when they went to Taiwan. And then he also was a student manager at NC State. So he has experience. So I'm happy to bring him on board. I think he's going to be a great asset to have locally. Him and Harris are going to do a lot of heavy lifting with me here in this area, and I'm going to be really excited to see how that goes.
Gotta love it. Always bringing on good people to the MLB draft team. Always losing good people from the MLB draft team to really good opportunities. So absolutely love it. Before we get into more Prospects Live updates, we have to do one thing. to do every episode. We haven't done this in a couple episodes, just because there hasn't been a ton of topics and things like that. We're gonna do some rapid fire questions. We got 3 today. One is kind of a more elongated question, but first, what we're gonna do is some top 100s. Who would you rather have? So we're gonna pick 2 players, and Tyler's gonna pick which guy he would rather have right now. Not based off of ranks. He's just gonna pick a guy. So the first one is Hagen Smith or Brody Brecht. Hagen Smith out of Arkansas, Brecht out of Iowa.
So here's my thinking here. Because now we know Hagen Smith has had another velocity increase. Pitching inning the other day, it's three strikeouts on 14 pitches, 11 strikes, and he's 97 to 100. If Hagen Smith's throwing strikes this year, give me Hagen every day of the week.
Yeah.
That's not to say Brody's not doing everything to be the second best arm on our board.
Yeah,
I do have to question
104. I mean,
yeah, you mean the 99 that it ended up being?
Yeah.
But the thing with Brody is if he has another season where he's walking 15% of guys, I don't think he's going to be the second best arm. Obviously, it's really, really good stuff. I love the slider. I'd like to see the fastball change shape a bit because it doesn't really have sufficient vertical life. But if he throws more strikes this year, I think he's going to be fine. So it's really a toss-up at this point for me. But like I said, if Hagen's throwing strikes and is holding velo throughout the season, probably give me Hagen at that point. So I guess I'll go Hagen.
Yeah. It's a hard debate to pick between the two. I mean, I tweeted something out about Brody Brecht the other day, and Royals fans were like, "Oh, we want Brecht," and I'm like, "Well, you have to." I tweeted out how fast he throws, but I didn't tweet out the commands part, and I was like following up in comments, being like, "Yeah, he throws hard, but let's look at those command issues." So it's not just command;
he
it's
did have
control.
Improved fastball command at the end of the year.
That's good.
I think he's working on it, and obviously not having football is going to help.
Yeah,
so he can have full time.
It's not a terrible pick for if the Royals decided to go that route. Like they have their raid the zone mentality. They've completely revamped the pitching side of things. So it's like maybe that's a guy they think they could develop quickly, and kind of be a quick riser to the big leagues. Now we're gonna go college position players. We got Vance Honeycutt or Mike Sirota.
You're gonna hate me for this, but
you're gonna pick Honeycutt. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
North Carolina, of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. My main reason behind this is I think Honeycutt's probably a better defender in center.
Yeah.
No offense to Sirota. I think Sirota is probably an above average defender, but Vance Honeycutt's probably a plus defender at the 8. My biggest thing with Honeycutt is show me a hit tool this year. Show me something consistent. He's cut the K rate substantially last year, but he also cut production in half. So I'm really hoping to see that production come back. If he hits this year, it could be 1-1 personally. Teams really do value defensive upside. He's going to have a lot of it. He's a really fast runner. I think he's plus speed. It might be above average now just because he did get injured at the end of last year. I think it was a lower back injury or something like that. But I don't know how much that's affected his speed. But give me a guy that, right now you could probably put a 45 on the hit tool.
Yeah.
If it's like 50 plus with 55 power and plus defense and center, I would take that over Sirota, who himself has a really well-rounded tool set.
Yeah, and I mean, so when we did the mock draft, I took Sirota at 1-6, and I only took it because Honeycutt was off the board. And I as much as I like Sirota in the game, being a mid-major fan, 5-tool guys, our potential 5-tool guys, don't usually grow on trees. And if that hit tool pans out, you have a really, really good 5-tool player. And that's why I would go Honeycutt. Like, even if the Royals came up at 1-6 and had to decide between Honeycutt and Sirota, I'd hope they'd go the Honeycutt route. But I think there's a good chance he's not there at 1-6. So
I think so too. Yeah. At this point, if everything clicks, top 3 maybe.
Yeah. All right, now we're moving on to high school arms. We have Levi Sterling or Joey Oki.
Oh man, another Iowa guy. You're gonna make me the Iowa pitching coach is going to be in my DMs. It's like, why did you pick my guys? Love you, Sean, by the way. This is a little bit tougher. I really like Levi Sterling. I think he's probably the most. He's probably got the highest floor of any prep arm in this class, mainly because it's a real well polished 4-pitch mix. Really predictable, really young for the class. He's really going to be valued heavily on models that really specifically look for the young age. He's not even going to be 18 on draft day. And he's also got a potentially above average changeup with, average fastball right now. And good feel of spin, like the slider cutter is already at the 85, 86. But Joey Oki also has low release, a really, really good fastball, and probably the best slider in this prep class. Like, you're talking about a slider that's already like 84, 86 with 15 inches of sweep and spins at like 28, 2900.
Yeah.
That is filthy. I would like to see the command get better personally. He did have a couple issues with that with the fastball, but I mean, he's also on the younger side of the spectrum. I think he's only gonna be like 18.2 on draft day. I really do have a thing for guys that miss bats with the fastball, and that's what Oki does. Sterling's more of a kind of a Rhett Lauder deal where it's like you have swing and miss, but you have more of like a pitch for contact or paint the edges kind of deal with him, which is nothing bad at all. That's something that really should be valued more in my opinion. And having a guy with potentially above average command as a prep guy, pretty darn good. But I'll have to go Levi here, but Oki slider is really making me tempted to pick Oki at this point. More strikes, more changeups. I think Oki might be higher upside, but give me a guy with a higher floor in Levi.
Love it. All right, so we now are going to wrap it up with high school prep bats. We got Carter Johnson or Caleb Bonham. Sorry.
This is the toughest one for me personally because I love both guys.
Both are really good.
Yes. I think Carter Johnson's like an average hit, above average power at some point. I really like the bat path that he has. We've talked about it a million times. Excuse my language, but there's Colt Emerson in that swing. I put a tweet out comparing the two. Tried my best with Phil Mora to try and like pinpoint exactly when the swing starts, and I kind of butchered it. But you can see the similarities. I think Colt has better hand speed, but the bat paths are similar. I think Carter has more power. My concern with Bonham is I think he might chase a little bit too much. For my liking. He did really turn it up after PDP last year and was just hammering the ball. I think it's possibly plus power. And you could probably put like a Brady House comp on that kind of prospect with 60 grade speed. The power speed combo might outweigh myself there, and that's where I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Bonham here. But this is really, really close. I like both guys. I think Bonham might be a potentially average hit tool with 60 raw power, with 60 speed. There's just more upside there, I think, on the power speed side. But Johnson's overall like swing and average to above average power kind of tempts me there a little bit, and I think he's probably going to handle shortstop more than what Bonham would because I think Bonham's a third baseman.
Yeah, love it. All right, so we've gotten through the top 100s. We got two more rapid fire questions. I'm going to join you on these ones. This doesn't have to be a 2024 draft guy. This can just be amateur baseball across the board. So who's your college breakout bat?
I'm going 2025 for both of these picks. This is a class that I'm trying to dig into more. Merrick Houston out of Wake Forest is a guy that I think is probably going to break out this year. Didn't really do much with the bat last year. I think he hit like a 215. Didn't have a lot of power, but it's a surefire shortstop. Really love the motions he has at the 6. I think he's got great range, a good arm, good internal clock. And during fall scrimmages this year, like everything just looked better for him. He looks like he's learning the game pretty well. The bat looks a lot better, just from what we saw against Elon. I think he's in for a big year. And overall, I think he could put himself into one of the upper echelon of college shortstops in next year's class. We'll just have to see how that goes. Like I said, he hit 215 last year, but when you have a guy that can no doubt, like at this point already, is going to be a surefire shortstop. It's something to keep an eye on, and especially with how good that Wake Forest team is. I think he's probably going to be a table setter in that lineup at the 1 or 2 hole.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to pick a guy who's not really probably a big top draft pick for 2024. I'm sticking in the region that I know the best. I'm going to go Elijah Lambros from Maryland. Hit 288 last year with 14 home runs, 10 doubles, 56 RBIs, slugged 541, had an on-base percentage of 404. Kind of gives me some vibes of Chris Ailing, just with a little less speed. I think he's got a potential to really kind of break out this year. He's probably not going to be a super high draft pick, but probably still gets selected at some point during the later rounds. I just think he's going to be a fun guy to watch. And really, with Matt Swope taking over, he's one of the better hitting coaches in college baseball. And he's also now going to be the head coach and is brought on, I think it's Jimmy Jackson now as the assistant coach for hitting. I have a feeling they're going to tap a new level for him. He's probably going to become somewhat of a leader for the team too as well. So excited to see what he can do.
Love that. And I like Lambros as a prep too. I think he was committed to South Carolina, got to Maryland, and now he's going to have his chance to really shine. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I believe he played his freshman year at Maryland too, and then transferred over played his freshman year at South Carolina, transferred over to Maryland.
Yeah, there you go. You got it right now.
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to the college breakout arm. Who you got?
I'm going for I'm a pro Tyler kind of guy. This is someone that's really stuck out.
So if your
film.
name is Tyler, you will be in the top 100 of our draft.
This is correct. I will put my own name into a top 100. I'm 25 and have no athletic abilities anymore, but I will put myself into that lineup. But this is a guy that really stuck out to me on film. Tyler Bremner out of UCSB. We mentioned him earlier. He was probably one of the more impressive freshmen last year. 55 innings, struck out 79, walked only 15. Kind of like a split role. He had like 8 starts, 8 bullpen appearances. I think this year he's probably going to have to be a starter. It's really, really good motions on the mound. I really love the delivery. It's easy, it's loose, it's athletic. The fastball really jumps out of the hand. I think he's already been up to 98 this fall, which is impressive for me because he's going to be in the zone. He's going to get swing and misses. It's a fastball that's really going to play well. I think it might be plus at the next level. He's got a really interesting changeup too. It's a high spin change that really plays off that change or the fastball really, really well. And it's his primary off speed at the moment. And the slider has also gotten better. It's in the mid 80s with good spin and sweep. I think he's primed for a really good breakout. I say that as this is the kind of guy that, like I mentioned, was one of the best freshmen last year. But he's going to probably dial it up to a new level this year with how UCSB is with their arms.
Yeah, I love that pick. The guy I'm going with, again, staying in the DMV region, going in 2025, Jack O'Connor from the University of Virginia. Is probably going to be the Friday night guy. I mean, almost guaranteed going to be the Friday night guy. Just a quality 4-pitch mix. And like you were talking about your last guy, the delivery is just so easy and repeatable and smooth. I mean, he commands the strike zone really well. He's about 90 to 93 with the fastball. He has a really, really good slider and curveball to kind of go off of that as well, and a decent changeup. And his changeup's deceptive, which is nice, and it helps him kind of play off that fastball a little bit that doesn't have that like elite velocity. So I think he's going to be a guy who really breaks out. He threw well last year. I think he threw well. I think he threw in the Cape this year. Pitched really well there as well. And I just think he's going to be a guy who's going to be on the top of draft boards and come 2025.
Yeah, I really like O'Connor. I've loved this film. The slider's really, really good.
Yeah, slider's fun.
I think it had like a 40% whiff rate this year, which is pretty nutty to look at. Another guy that I kind of want to mention too, Matt Scott out of Stanford. ERA was pretty ugly as a freshman, but 6'7", 245, like really, really easy delivery. The only issue is I think the fastball is too steep with the approach angle to kind of miss bats at a consistent level. But he's already been up to 98 this offseason in bullpens. I think the slider is really, really, really good because it's like a slider cutter hybrid at like 86, 91. I think that's probably his best primary off speed. He's got a good curveball, and he's got a splitter now. I think he's a guy that will probably end up getting Stanford's Friday night role and can really put himself in prime position to be the best arm next year. He was my second option if Bremner wasn't just so darn good.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So now that everybody's heard us talk for 40 minutes, we finished on the clock. We got to talk about anything we have coming up for Prospects Live. I know Patrick Bauer just released an awesome article having some live looks from the Future Stars Showdown at Globe Life Field, where some JUCO teams were being highlighted there. Is there anything else in the works that everybody should be aware of?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing some regional previews here over the next
Love
couple
it.
of weeks. I gotta talk to Rec and Will trying to figure out what our game plan is with getting that out. But we're gonna try and do like by region, like here's guys that could go on day 1, day 2 to 5, and then 5, like round 5 or like round 6 and higher is like a tier 3. It's like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 thing. So we're gonna hopefully have that coming out soon, and then we got a little bit of a different setup this year that I want to try and implement with our live looks writing. I worked on a scouting report template for us to kind of like.
Yep.
I just put it in the chat not too long ago. This is Sunday. It's going to go out Tuesday, but it's something that I kind of tinkered with a little bit and thought of like what would be the best way to kind of like keep track of notes in a more consistent way instead of keeping my messy notebook. So really what I'm going to try and do is write down my notes in game and kind of give the readers an idea of how we, evaluate, and then transfer that into a scouting report template and put it on the website and write like a quick summary after it to try and get people to like, this is what we do at the game. This is our write-up. This is what we think is going to happen, yada, yada. It just makes it easier for us because then we don't have to spend, crunch time trying to get all these blurbs done. I want to try and make it as easy as possible for everybody here at the site, myself included, because I'm still in school. But yeah, I think that's something that I'm definitely going to be excited to try and implement this year. And then, of course, this Thursday, I'm going to kind of celebrate a little bit. February 1st, you guys get my full spring schedule, really. And I'm pretty excited with all the stuff that I have planned. We'll do 2025's rankings at some point. I talked with Joe Doyle the other day about what the best way to approach that. And really, I think the best way is kind of see who pops up this year, kind of go from there. And I'm really only surface level on that class, so I'm not in a rush to try and push that kind of stuff out if I'm not knowledgeable on it.
We're trying to focus on this year too. There's a lot happening and a lot of good guys in the class too. So, I mean, we've got to give them the attention they deserve. All those 2025 guys will get enough attention next year too.
This is true. Yeah.
Once the draft's over in June, they'll get that attention.
Yeah, but I definitely want to try and get some 25 stuff out here in the short term. I would say probably closer to tournament time, we'll have something out on those guys and start like we did this year with like a top 50 high school, top 50 college, and then, go to 100 and then combine both the lists, which we'll probably do a mock and the combined like top 200 at some point in March.
Yeah.
I would probably say right before conference play starts. So I think for ACC, that would be March 8th is the first weekend of conference play. So I would expect something around then. And then we'll just consistently put stuff out like top 300 in April or May, go to 400 potentially if we really feel like it, and then mocks every month to try and get everything, put out there. But I'm excited. I'm very excited to get this wrapped up and rolling. It's going to be a really, really fun spring. And I'm personally, just with everything that we've done, I'm really, really high on the content we're going to put out, and really, really just proud of all the work that we've all put in through this year. Like Jared, first off, clap for you because of the fact that you've got all these amazing guests on the show this year. Like, this isn't possible without you. First off,
I appreciate it. And we can give a little bit of a tease about some of the guests we have coming up, right? We have 3 weeks until the season starts. So we're going to potentially release one a week now, starting this week. So we'll have the University of Washington head coach, Jason Kelly, which that interview is coming up right after this. We are hoping to have one more top 10 college prospect on, and probably one of the biggest coaches in college baseball. We'll leave it at that for now. And then hopefully we'll have a college baseball preview the week of that we can drop with someone awesome that we're really going to try to get on and do that as well, depending on schedule. So hopefully we'll have 3 more interviews for you before the season starts some way, somehow. Then we might take a little bit of a break during the season from those interviews and start bringing on our analysts to do more live look breakdowns, give you some recaps of the weekend of things that we saw at our live looks, and just weekend recaps of series and those kind of things. So lots to come for the podcast. But for now, we should get you over to that incredible interview with Washington head coach Jason Kelly. He was also LSU pitching coach at Arizona State and the University of Washington as well. Been in the game for a long time, just an incredible dude, and we hope you enjoy the interview. We have another incredible guest with us today on the clock, head coach Jason Kelly at the University of Washington. I was pitching coach at LSU, Arizona State, also at UW, where he's now head coach. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you on. Your journey's been incredible. But just the first question we asked, just for the viewers, give a little background on yourself, how you got to where you are, some of your coaching philosophies and things like that.
Yeah, it's been like most coaches in this game that are my age, kind of in their mid 40s. It's been an interesting journey. It's been kind of started from the beginning. Obviously, wasn't a good enough player to really play at an incredibly high level. So I got into coaching relatively young. Some good advice from my family. My family is in the pro ranks for the most part. My dad was a player. My uncles managed in the minor leagues for since 1985 or something like that. My brother is the big league hitting coach for the Cubs. So we've kind of all been in professional baseball. And I was 21 and got hurt, blew my elbow out, and was forced with Tommy John and wasn't going to be. And my dad said, "Hey, I think coaching's your thing. Not that you're not a good player, but you're an 85-mile-an-hour left-hander who the future isn't quite as bright. I think you should get involved in this." And I got involved at the volunteer level, and volunteered at Cuesta College, at the junior college in San Luis Obispo, and then ultimately got to volunteer for Larry Lee at Cal Poly, and work with him and Jerry Weinstein and cut my teeth in some of the real specific coaching things, and then got a Division II opportunity with Lindsey Meggs at Chico State, and did that and had a great time doing that at that level. Loved it and was happy. And then Jerry Weinstein takes a pro job with the Rockies, and Larry Lee hired me as the pitching coach. I think I was 24 years old at that time, had no idea what I was doing, but was a problem solver and was going to figure it out. And luckily, he gave me some leeway to work, and I owe him everything for doing that. Most older coaches would take the reins on that and not let the young guy do a lot. He let me make a ton of mistakes and worked with me. And I spent a couple of years there, and then ended up coming back up here with Coach Meggs in 2013, and spent a couple of years here and had a good run. And then Arizona State and COVID and the world changed, and you guys all know how that went. And then got lucky to get a chance to coach with Jay Johnson at LSU, somebody who I'd always wanted to be around and coach with. Just coaching against him, those teams offensively especially were just such a problem, that I wanted to be part of something like that, and got a chance to do that. And then got lucky and got an opportunity to get this job, got an opportunity to come home, and come back to the University of Washington, which is a place that I raised my kids here. We moved from California when they were 3 and 4, and left when they were 12 and 13. So a really cool thing for me to be able to come back and work at such an obviously great institution, but also get back involved with some of the alumni and some of the players that I got a chance to coach, and just really lucky to have this opportunity. And the philosophy part of it is, it's, we want to enjoy ourselves. I mean, that's something that I think, is a little bit not different, but something that we pride ourselves on is we play really hard and we have a fun time doing it. And I've got great coaches that have been at all levels of baseball. We've got Jason Ellison, who played in the big leagues. We've got Jake Silverman, who's been a recruiting coordinator for a long time. And Mike Ganji was a cross checker. So we've got a lot of different voices in our clubhouse. Guys that have been in college baseball their entire career, guys that have been in professional baseball their entire career. So a really well-rounded group that we really enjoy being around. And I think our players enjoy that too. And as you guys know, if you can come to the yard every day excited to be here, and excited to work, then it makes some of the difficult things just so much easier to do. And our guys have shown that they're willing to work. And the philosophy is to really recruit well and then develop. And those are the two things that we're going to try and hang our hat on here, hopefully for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think it's really interesting that you talked about kind of your journey too, because every coach's journey is kind of different getting to the top, right? And the one thing that you had a lot of success in the first year, you guys went 35-20, got a regional bid. Talk a little bit about that, what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, I walked into a really good team. That's something that is very evident. When you come into a situation of a coach retiring, which Coach Meigs did, you're not walking into something that needs to be fixed necessarily. You're walking into maybe something that needs to be tinkered with, as all things do, but not something that we felt like we had to come in and blow up the roster and start over. The moment I said, actually before I said yes to this job, I'd obviously had done enough research to know that they had a good roster, and I was involved in recruiting some of these kids also before I left. So it was a unique situation of just coming in and going, okay, how can we coach this team with these players to the best of their ability? And we kind of opened things up a little bit. We allowed them to have a little bit more freedom. We opened the offense up a little bit compared to the way Coach liked to do it. And the team benefited from that, and we had a little bit of power, so we let them swing, and we hit some homers, and that was a good thing. So it was a really great group that had a ton of energy, that was looking for not new leadership by any means, but just maybe a little bit of energy that we provided. And the hard part, as you guys know and coaches know, is continuing that energy. Year one's always awesome, and it's shiny and it's bright, and everybody's excited. We're doing different things, and the players are motivated. How can you keep that momentum? How can you keep that energy going into year 2, 3, 4, and 5? And we're working on that now as we speak, and have had some success with it so far. But last year's group was awesome, man. They really loved to play. They really loved to compete. We fell short of the goal, obviously, of winning a national championship, but the journey was unbelievable. There's not a group that I would have rather had year one on to work with than that group. They took a lot of pressure off of me. They were mature. They handled business, so I didn't have to come in and really dominate them. I gave them a ton of freedom, and they responded really great. So it was a great year. My most rewarding year as a coach, of just being able to sit back and watch those guys play and take their games into their own hands. It was really fun to watch.
I love it. Tyler, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that team from last year too, because Cam Clayton obviously back this year. He had Kiefer Lord and Stu Flesland, I think was the last name.
Yep.
Those are guys that stick out in my mind that really stood out. So kind of just talk about those guys a little bit if you can.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys that really stuck out. Obviously, those guys being kind of on the draft radar are who teams go to and who people think of. Cam had a great year for us. He was a draft eligible sophomore, hit over 300 and was one of the best players in the conference. Had opportunities to sign, and decided with his family that he wanted to come back a year and get better and help maybe take this program back to Omaha. So we are incredibly lucky that he made that decision, and we feel like it kind of shows where the program is, that somebody was willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to turn down a little bit of money and go back to school, and he's going to make that money back this year. I think he's got a chance to be a top 3 round pick this year and be in the running for College Player of the Year. There's some great players in this conference this year, as there always is, but I think he's going to be right up there at the top. Kiefer Lord was kind of a great story, and you guys know a little bit about that story. A D3 transfer in that nobody knew much about, and his first inter squad here, he hit 99 miles an hour, and everybody's eyes kind of perked up a little bit in the scouting community, and he started off the season really good for us. I mean, it was dominant, had some lulls at times, and fought through those things and got better. I think that's one thing. If you talk to Keith about, he may not be exactly happy with the way it ended, but I think he got better and is ready for pro ball, and that's just as much of our job as winning games is preparing these guys for the next level. They all want to play in professional baseball, so for him to get that opportunity to be a 3rd round pick is awesome. I mean, we had some other great guys on the team. Will Simpson was our leader. He was, I think, an 18th round pick with Oakland A's, and went out and had a great first year of professional baseball. Kobe Morales was a leader on our team, who was a Yankees draft pick, who had a really good start to his season, ended up getting cut short with an injury, but was really good. Michael Snyder, who has since moved on to Oklahoma as a grad transfer, was a great piece for us. Johnny Tincher was our catcher and kind of our leader in the regards of playing every day, playing tough, playing dinged up. I mean, he caught 97% of our innings. So we just had older guys that we're really looking forward to playing, and they carried us, man. And like I said before, we didn't have to do much as a coaching staff to motivate those guys because we had great leadership in our locker room.
That's perfect. And, you mentioned the older kind of like team there. First thing that comes to mind, Campbell last year. That was a team that was really, really talented, and they were a bunch of older guys. Like, trying to think, Jared Belbin was like 23. Drake Pearson was like 24, 25.
Yeah, and we ran into Oral Roberts.
Yeah,
an older team that just kicked our teeth in. And as you're going down that roster, they weren't incredibly old, but you're like senior, especially the guys coming out of the bullpen. They were older guys that had developed, that maybe didn't come in at 97, but are leaving at 97. And you're just like, holy cow, this is a great team. So yeah, those older teams had a ton of success last year.
Oh yeah, and I even keep remembering like Jacob Godwin was NC State grad. And I say that because I live in North Carolina, but like I remember him playing it for Avon, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's in Omaha with Oral Roberts. I didn't expect that.
Right? Yeah, that's kind of the world we live in now. You forget where guys are at times with the portal, and I guess that's a positive because you saw a kid get a chance to really play and get to Omaha, but it's just odd seeing some guys in different uniforms.
Absolutely. And then of course this year, you talked about the portal and everything. What's the outlook this year with some of the players you have on the roster? Obviously with Cam being back, who are some other names that we should watch out for?
We're going to be a different team. We're going to be less, not offensive, but we're going to have to offense different. We're going to be kind of more doubles oriented. We're going to have to strike out just a little bit less. Offensively, those leaders are some of the usual suspects. We've got AJ Guerrero back in left field. He hit third for us the entire year as a freshman All-American, all-conference, chance to be a top 5-round draft pick. He'll be our offensive. Him and Cam are kind of two offensive leaders. We've got Sam DiCarlo back, who played second base almost every day for us, hit 270 with 7 or 8 home runs and was really good. We've got Jeter Ibarra back, who got into the lineup a little bit later, but never came out after that and was incredible for us for 90% of his at-bats. So really, really good. And then we've got some new guys coming in that have a chance to contribute. We've got a kid named Braden Terry from Everett Community College. It's a left center fielder that we don't quite know what he's going to be, but we know there's talent. We know that he's going to be probably in the lineup, and we're going to see what he does. The big change in this team, I think, is going to be on the mound. We've really stretched our depth. I don't know that we have a top 3 round pick on the mound, but I think we've got a bunch of kind of 8 to 12s at some point in their careers, and sometimes that's better than having that first frontline guy. Jared Ingman's back. He had some ups and downs last year, but has retooled himself, changed his body a little bit, retooled the repertoire, got some more velocity, so he's going to be a leader for us. Calvin Kirchhoff was somebody that we wanted in the rotation last year. He had a freak injury at a plate in the weight room, pinch his finger and just slice it to shreds. So he missed all of January, all of February, and a little bit of March last year. So when he came back, he just wasn't quite there. And then the bullpen's going to be hopefully our strength with Josh Emanuel's back down there, who's been a star for us, and Riley McAdams. And then we've got some younger guys, Jace Evangelista, that are going to be good. Our depth is going to be better. We're going to have the ability to pitch better now. Whether we do that, we'll have to wait and see. But I like our depth back there. I think we'll be a little bit different team than we were last year.
Awesome. Jared, you got any more questions here?
Yeah, so the one question I was going to have for you as the schedules start to come out, Pac-12 is always stacked, right? Are there some matchups that you're really looking forward to this season?
Oh man, there's so many. Like we have such good kind of individual rivalries with a couple teams, especially in the Northwest. When we get together with Oregon State, it's always great, and Mitch is doing a great job down there, and they've got. I don't know everybody in the country, but they've got to have one of the top 10 offenses in the country with Bazana back and Guerra back, and they're just going to be really long offensively, so they're obviously going to be a problem. Oregon, Waz has done a great job there. That's always a great battle. We got the best of them last year in where a weekend we really, really played well. And so they're going to be a battle. The Cougs with Choate over there, they're going to have a new identity with him having his first year, so that's going to be awesome. So the Northwest battles are always awesome. And then the usual suspects get into the pack, when you've got Stanford and Cal's just been a nemesis to me personally for the 10 years that I've been here. Mike does a great job down there. And then the Arizona schools are good. And I think UCLA's kind of turned the corner. They were so young last year. That offense is going to be, the recruiting class that they brought in is going to be a problem. And then you got Stanford with Malcolm Moore, and you've just got really good top, guys that could be top 10 picks in the draft in our conference. So everybody's a battle with the last year of the pack. I expect it to be a ton of energy. We're going to lose some of these rivalries, unfortunately. So it's going to be a little different feel to it this year. So I expect us, to all want to go out with a bang, and everybody's going to fight hard to win that last Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, I loved how you touched on too, kind of the talent that's up in the Pacific Northwest. I feel like that always gets overlooked because when I did baseball ops at the University of Nevada, we had a ton of guys from the Pacific Northwest that came down to play, and no one really thinks about it. And I feel like it just gets overlooked all the time.
Yeah, it's the Northwest is an interesting place because, as you guys know, you just can't play year round. So they tend to be a little bit behind, and that's hard in the recruiting process because our kind of adage in this office is sometimes we're going to recruit players that are a year behind some of the California, Arizona players. It's just they haven't played as much, so you have to have a different view on some of these players. But what you can find up here is you can find a ton of talent and a ton of physicality, which is hard to find. Everybody up here, when you think about, and you add in Seattle U, and you add in Gonzaga, and you add in Portland, we're all fighting for a small number of players. You've got really good schools fighting for, maybe 100 players, less than 100 players per class. And as you guys know, the SEC is coming up here. There's other schools coming up here because they're starting to recognize the players up here too. So it's become a recruiting. It's become a much bigger battle than it has been in the past because everybody's so good up here. So it makes getting those players, man, it makes it more difficult than people think.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it even comes down to luck too, because I think when we were at Nevada, we had Braden Shipley, who was from the Pacific Northwest, and he was a shortstop his first year, and then all of a sudden got on the mound and started bumping 90s, and a team like Nevada wouldn't expect to get a guy like that for the most part.
We're recruiting so early now, and they've put some limits on us, obviously, but you're still recruiting. I mean, you're almost done with your class by the time they're juniors. So there's so much development between 17 and 18 years old that we miss. And it's not that we miss because we don't evaluate. It's because kids get better. And that's incredible to see. And you see schools that may not be in the Power Five get great players. I mean, nobody's done it as better than Gonzaga's done it. I mean, they've just done a great job, and they'll have 2 or 3 arms every year that you're like, dang it. Like, where did that guy come from? And you go back on your notes and he was 83, 85, and you were like, oh yeah, he's okay. And now he's 90, 93. And you're like, gosh, you guys have done a great job with that guy. So it's nobody's fault, but it's just, as you guys know, it's hard to predict. And this place, especially because of the lack of, total game time, there's kids that are going to come out of the woods. The junior college stuff up here is really good too. As you know, in Nevada, a lot of those kids go to those places and are superstars. So there's plenty of players up here.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm from the New England area, and UConn every year is good, and they do a great job recruiting guys, and they find guys local in the area, which isn't easy to do in the New England states because, like you said, just like in the Pacific Northwest, they don't have the opportunity to go out and play every single day, and they just find ways to recruit guys, tap into their potential, and UConn's just kind of a powerhouse every year.
Yeah, those guys, we had them in that Coastal Carolina regional and have played them before, but they just do such a good job of developing that kids that are underdeveloped are willing to take a chance, and say, hey, maybe I'll walk on there, because when I look at this track record of them getting guys drafted and getting guys better, that's what they do. So many people are chasing the money in this thing that they don't go to the right place that's actually going to help them get better. And that's a place where, if you're a local kid, Washington's the same way. Kids want to come here because this is the big university in this city, and it's a huge city. That maybe they'll come here for free and develop. And if we have the reputation of putting guys into professional baseball, then they're willing to bet on you, and we're willing to bet on them. And that's how you get those blue chip guys that you just didn't see coming.
Yeah, I interviewed Ryan O'Hearn once, and he kind of talked about that same thing. He went to Sam Houston State, and he was like, just go where you get an opportunity to play. He goes, you don't have to go to the big SEC school, the big ACC school. Go where like a team's going to believe in you, a coaching staff's going to believe in you, and you can get those opportunities to showcase what you can do.
It's the University of Washington is not going to get you drafted. Like it's just because you wear the purple and gold doesn't mean you're going to get a chance. Like that's got to be on you at some point
Yep.
To make those changes to get better. And you can do that in a Power Five, in a junior college, in a Division II. Like scouting is the landscape is so big now that if you can play, and you're going to have to play and perform, there's a small handful of players that are so talented that they don't necessarily have to perform. But 95% of them are going to have to perform. And if you perform in the Power Five, you perform in junior college, it doesn't matter as long as you're a performer and you're going to get your opportunity. And the draft is interesting because guys are chasing that money and we're trying to convince guys like, hey man, it's about getting a big league contract. You know what I mean? It's about getting that first contract. It's about being good enough to be a big leaguer and stay in the big leagues. That's how you make your money. So chasing 500 grand out of the draft, sure, that's awesome and good for you. But in 5 years, you're going to look back at that and go, "Where's that money? It's gone." And we're ready for professional baseball. And if you are, then do it. I'm as pro professional baseball as anybody, but you got to be ready because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun. There's There's more sad stories than there are great stories out of professional baseball. Less than 1%. I think I saw 23,000 big leaguers ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And I don't know when it started, 18 something. And it couldn't even fill the Mariners Stadium with the guys that have played in the major league. So that's a tough hill to climb sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely well over 90% of guys who are drafted aren't going to make it.
Yeah, and this is college baseball has changed. You can have an incredible experience here. I mean, you can have as close to a AA experience as anywhere. So it's a great avenue to not only get some school done, but learn and get yourself ready to compete at the highest level.
Yeah, I love it. I got one more question, but Tyler, I'll turn it over to you just in case you have a few more.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You mentioned Jay Johnson earlier, working with him. Mm-hmm. I've met Jay. It's really loved talking to him. But I kind of want to hear some of the stories that you got on Jay because I've definitely heard some interesting stuff. And obviously, players love him, coaches love him. So I just kind of wanted to hear your experience on working with Jay for a year with LSU and kind of just talking about some of the guys you saw there.
Yeah, he is somebody that I had a relationship with for quite some time. We've talked, I'm not going to say once a week, but twice a month, just on common opponents and a lot of other things, and on the recruiting trail, and so I had known him, but you don't know somebody until you're locked in an office with somebody for a couple of months, and there's some great stories, and there's some funny stories, but the thing that comes to my head when you ask that question is what everybody knows, but people don't quite get it, is how hard of a worker he is. Like he's just on all the time, and he says it. He goes, I'm 24 hours a day focused on LSU baseball, and when that's something you hear in an interview, and you're like, yeah, sure, dude, I get it. Like we all are. Yeah, great. But I saw firsthand that is no joke. I mean, that's his entire focus. And he's married, and his wife Maureen is an incredible person, but that's her focus too. Like that's what's funny about it is it's not him being separated from people. It's those two doing it together. And it's an incredible thing. He's an incredible worker. What people don't know about him, and you wouldn't know, is how much the players love him. And I know you see some of that, but he kind of comes off as somebody that's so focused on winning that maybe he would be a little bit kind of disassociated from the player, and that is not the case at all. I mean, the guy is involved in their lives. He's constantly in contact with them. It's not just baseball. He's an incredible person to them, and that was something that I just didn't know. And watching how much they love to play for him was something that was not unexpected, but something that you just don't know. And he's just such a good person to those kids, and also a great coach. I mean, he prepares his team offensively better than anybody I've ever been around, and is committed to helping those guys get better. So that experience was great, and then just LSU in general for me was awesome. I mean, to go to a place where and we joked about it a lot because they had went through maybe just a little bit of a lull that football year. Coach Ogeron got let go, and it was in a little bit of, and it was baseball school, which was kind of funny because that's not how college athletic works. But to be at a place where that was even almost tolerated, it was like, holy cow, these people do believe this. Just to work with that administration there that they are prepared to give you everything you need to have success. There's no hurdles. And then the type of player that you can get there. I didn't realize just what kind of pull the SEC, those schools, how kids have grown up since the day they were born, wanting to wear that purple and gold up there is something that I didn't quite understand, and why a kid like Dylan Cruz would turn down millions of dollars for this experience. And that was something that was not shocking, but to see it in person was great. And those kids were great. They took us in. That's one thing, not to go on too long, but the biggest thing from that place, and now me being at multiple places, was the alumni there. Those guys were incredible to us, incredible to me. If you're good enough for us, if you're good enough to be hired here, then you're good enough for us. We want to help you. We want to support you. There was never Skip's guys versus Paul's guys versus Smoke's guys. There was none of that, man. They were all Tigers. They were all in. They were all supporting us. Like that group of alumni, and I think every class for so many years had won a title, so they weren't not overly concerned about that, but they knew that those things were going to happen, and they were supportive of it. So the alumni were incredible, the nicest people, supportive. Even when things didn't go your way, they knew that you were doing a good job. They saw through some of the smoke that maybe the fans didn't see through. So it was an incredible experience. I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, I love it, and I love getting the insights from you. And you can really tell that you've taken it into your coaching philosophy, right? Putting that human being first. The players that play for you, they're human beings before they're baseball players, and it's kind of awesome to see that. Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us on the Clock. We're really excited to have you on, and we're wishing you nothing but the best in the upcoming season, and we'll definitely be watching.
Awesome. I appreciate your guys' time and your coverage and continue to support college baseball and look forward to hopefully talking to you guys again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys, go Dogs.